Deep beneath the waves.
The millions of shipwrecks that are scattered all over the planet.
Join them as they discover the beauty of nature.
There's thousands of creatures there that people have never seen before.
And the terrors of the deep.
Hang on. Can't help thinking how close I came today to losing a good mate.
Highway 1 hugs the coast, taking in some of the most infamous cities and coastal wonders in the Americas, to Journey's End, where this historic ribbon of road gives way to the modernity of Interstate 5 near the family-friendly seaside resort of Laguna Beach in the south. For me, the little industrial town of Santa Rosa, some 50 miles north of San Francisco, is the start of my journey to pick up my steed. Well, if you're going to ride Highway 1 and ride the American dream, the only bike that you would do it on surely would have been a Harley Davidson, but now all that's changed. Over the last 10 years, a revolution in custom motorcycles has made Harley Davidson's monopoly on riding the all-American bike a distant memory. Thanks to little companies with big ideas, producing chops with ridiculously raised styling and fabulously fat rear tyres, you can walk into a chop shop like this and buy a slice of radically customised American iron off the shelf anytime you fancy. Now, out of all these new breeds of motorcycle that are on offer, I've surfed the web for months trying to find the one that's right for me, but obviously having never seen them because they're not really in England. Now, I've chosen a Saxon Firestorm. I've never seen it, I've just added to basket. So I'm sort of nervous and also very excited. Oh my God. Oh my God. Preston, this is amazing. So is this, I mean, Saxon produced 3 or 4 different models. I mean, obviously this is the low kind of Pro Street look.
Yes.
And my God, it is low. Can I sit on it?
Definitely.
Now, oh mate, that is fantastic. Do you know, I just thought from the website, I thought that I'd be kind of riding something that's sort of like a wheelbarrow, but it fits me like a glove. And it's got a soft tail suspension.
Yes, it does.
So that's going to help a lot, because otherwise if it had a rigid suspension, I could be sort of riding a pneumatic drill really, couldn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Now look, you can go and buy a bike if you want over here and ride it down Highway 1, but there are other ways of getting yourself a motorcycle holiday. Now, there are a whole load of companies around here, sort of San Francisco area, that will hire you a bike to do Highway 1. It's going to cost you probably around $2,500 for about a 2-week trip. As I get up to cruising altitude, heading for the bright lights of San Francisco, about 50 miles down the one, I'm immediately wooed by this ridiculous motorcycle. Unbelievably, it's as comfortable as a Harley Softail Springer and as ludicrous as Liberace's dress sense. With over 1,600 cc's of power at my disposal and a whole load of Pro Street custom attitude, I feel that I'm riding what California is all about, an overt statement of freedom loved by some and hated by others. And as I cross Golden Gate Bridge, I'm in utter heaven. To understand the ethos of what California and Highway 1 is all about, you have to spend some time in San Francisco. Often shrouded in its famous sea mist, this vibrant and eclectic city has been the beacon of hope for freedom since the 50s. A freedom to live life as you want to that is fervently upheld by Californians all the way down Highway 1 to this day. And it all started with a hodgepodge band of now iconic writers and poets such as Jack Kerouac, William Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg, who converged on this tiny bookstore in the late 50s to peddle the then subversive ideologies we take for granted today, a simple yet revolutionary idea called free speech. The City Light bookstore was undeniably the birthplace of the Beat generation. The beatnik writers were considered radical and a threat to state security, so when Ginsberg's poem Howl was published by the bookstore in 1956, the owner Lawrence Ferlinghetti was tried for literary obscenity, but Ferlinghetti won the case and the victory was to herald the new dawn for America's disenchanted. Do you know what, it is amazing to think that without this little bookshop and without this poem by Ginsberg, how the freedom that we all love and enjoy and take for granted today could have been a whole lot different. In winning the court case, the Howell court case, Ginsburg perhaps paved the way for a social and cultural revolution. A revolution, to my mind, that probably changed the world. Well, it may have been the beatniks that started this cultural revolution, but it took another decade and another generation to really bring it to the world stage. That generation was the hippies, and here in the Haight-Ashbury area of San Francisco is where it all began. The legacy of the hippies' principles of free speech, free love and free everything else is still all to behold. The hippies are still here to this day, and Pam Brennan was one of the original hippies to peddle this counterculture that terrified America in the 60s. I mean, in those days you had Janis Joplin living here, Grateful Dead, Mamas and the Papas. It must have been a really exciting time, but at the same time perhaps quite a scary time.
Exactly, because you never do know. I mean, it was very, as free and open as it was, and you'd meet maybe 15, 20 new people every day. And you never really asked even their names, but you met them and knew them, communed with them, shared a meal with them. So as open as it was also the most paranoid period of time, because you never really knew who you were taking up with, and not everybody could handle that openness so readily. So we came up with the theory that just assume, whenever you're with a group of 3 or more, just assume that one is a narc, a CIA agent, or an FBI agent, and it made it ever so much easier to relax and get along with who you were with, if you just operated under that assumption.
To this day, you're coming to San Francisco, surely the Haight-Ashbury area is really where you should take a look, isn't it?
Absolutely, not to be missed. Today, there's a lot of boutiques and cafes and bookstores, and used clothing stores are the rage. It's certainly suffered a lot of what we know as gentrification. The gentry from the burbs are coming back in because it's cool. But I still think it has preserved a really conscious bit of enlightenment. I mean, I think people here, a lot of them are a little more enlightened and genuinely do want to see drastic progressive social change.
The Haight-Ashbury area is a treat not to be missed, with its just-got-out-of-bed, laid-back vibe. The landmarks like the Grateful Dead's home are still standing, and murals depicting the principles of the hippie movement adorn the houses. Issa, another hippie friend of Pam's, still lives the hippie life. To me, that kind of sums it up, really. There's a lot of trees, you know.
Right.
There's a lot of free love and free spirit and all that kind of free music.
It's very indicative of the 60s and the 70s, and even before that, because in the corner you have Martin Luther King, you have John F. Kennedy. Here you have a guru with people dancing around him in the tree. You have the person playing guitar, the person doing Tai Chi.
Do you think the hippie movement has succeeded or not?
You know what I think? I think not really. Is it over? No. There's many of us still here, and we're still working towards the movement to make the world a better place.
Invigorated now by the history of this quest for freedom that's all pervading down this coastline, I can't wait to get out of San Francisco and start my journey of discovery. As the golden embers of early evening light up the road ahead, I get my first glimpse of the stunning coastline that makes this road so special. The hustle and bustle of the city fades from the memory, and I'm beginning to leave the stress of urban life behind. That was wonderful. Now for me, freedom is all about motorcycling, but for a lot of people around here, the ultimate freedom is all about surfing. This is Half Moon Bay, about 40 miles out of San Francisco, and this particular break is infamous. It's called Mavericks, and it's one of the few places in the world that surfers like Grant can immerse themselves in their passion, a passion for big wave surfing. That's surfing waves of some 40 foot high. Now you do big wave surfing, which is lunacy in my view.
When you get to the big wave surfers, I think everybody's obsessed. You know, it's you take it to an extreme. Like, you know, if you're riding your motorcycle the whole length of the state, you know, most people maybe go out for an afternoon ride, but they're not going to do that. Most surfers aren't going to ride a 40-foot wave, but for the guys that do, it's an obsession and a passion and, you know, an all-consuming activity. So it's special. On the best day, this probably is the best place in the world. And on a lot of days, it's definitely the best place in the world, because most of the time other breaks don't provide 40-foot surf. So if you're surfing good 40-foot waves, chances are you're the only guy doing that. I think people overestimate the risk because of the scale and forget that it's water. If you're actually good at it and are familiar with what you're attempting, it's not as risky as it would appear. But of course, if I threw somebody out there who doesn't know what they're doing, drown in 5 minutes.
Even without the surf today, it's just a very special place to be here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the nicest things is this coastline, and you know, anybody that comes here, even in the summer when the waves are small, you can see what a great place it is. You can feel the interaction of, like, you know, primal geology and this amazing ocean, and it's just a cool place. You know, Route 1 is just, you know, I love it, love it.
Every type of surfing is a way of life all the way down this coast. Around every corner, the coastline beckons the lunatic like Grant or the nervous novice to get out into the surf.